Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
It is the Savage Nation. I'd like to be on a boat to Catalina today. It's a cesspool. It used to be beautiful. It's turned into a sewer. Anyone been to Catalina, do not call me. It's a sewer, not worth going to. It used to be beautiful. But like all things in America, like comedians who are no longer funny, who have resorted to the most base form of entertainment of debasing women, debasing the president. By the way, if you're interested in the true Jimmy Kimmel, the lowlife who brought out a tray of mushrooms and asked a disgusting, filthy stripper who's over the hill which one looks most like the president's private parts, we have found a piece from The Man Show where he exhibits the behavior that he criticized that Kavanaugh didn't engage in. Just in case you want to know who these phonies are. Just in case. Oh, yeah. Now, before we go into the Kavanaugh thing, which I don't want to do much of because we're all Kavanaugh'd out, we'll find out where the vote goes Saturday if they ever do it. My main question today is who benefited more from the destruction of Kavanaugh, the Dems or the Republicans? That's number one. And number two, what are the penalties for the sacred Dr. Fraud who tried to destroy this man's life? Why are there no penalties for lying under oath, which she lied? We caught her in 3 lies at least. We're also going to talk about wildlife being destroyed at a hyper rate across the planet and ask ourselves, as some say, are we heading to the 6th mass extinction on this planet? I know it's something that the great conservatives don't want to think about because, by and large, the conservatives in the radio business are as oafish on this issue as the Democrats are on Donald Trump. But wildlife destruction is something that should concern all of us, and conservatives mean conserve. We should conserve our friends on the planet, not destroy them. Very big story. But let me begin with the mass hysteria of our time. One paragraph, if I could indulge myself or your listenership for 1 second. Listen what happened in 1642. Perhaps the record holder for such criminality was one Thomas Granger, who was said to have had relations with a mare, a cow, 2 goats, 2 sheep, 2 calves, and a turkey. Overwhelmed by the sheer number and diversity of Granger's alleged bestiality, the offended public raised no objections, and he was executed. That was during the Salem witch trials in the chapter From Plymouth Rock to City Hall and Stop Mass Hysteria. In other words, when we talked about the Salem witch trials on this program yesterday, and I'm showing you the witch trials of today, the witch trial of Trump, the witch trial of deplorables, the witch trial of Kavanaugh as an example, as a factotum of all of us. It's really nothing new. This happened in New England in the 1640 era, and tragically it's happening again. And it's an example of the hysteria that is driving the political narrative today. The hysteria that began on college campuses by a group of radical psychotic feminists killing the patriarchy has now poisoned the entire body politic. So I'm going to ask you again, who, in your opinion, benefited most from the Kavanaugh persecution? Now, many of you would think it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction for me and say the Republicans did because the base has been agitated by this. I'm not so sure, as a matter of fact. I know 2 very successful conservative women who've always been conservative, not recently. They didn't just recently vote for Trump. They've been conservative since they're youngsters. And they're not happy with Kavanaugh. Would you believe that? I was actually shocked to learn that. They don't like him. They think he was angry. I said, what? What do you mean he was? In other words, they bought the line from the Feinstein gang that after they ripped this man to shreds and unfairly accused him of things he didn't do, the man stood up for himself. They said he looked angry. He didn't look right. I couldn't believe that. So let's not be so sure it's going to work for us. But many of you say Dems hurt themselves by lying and scheming rather than being forthcoming with their agenda. The Dems expose themselves in front of the people. Trump, rallied the base for the midterms. The right is united against the fascist left. Republicans have benefited because they feel that the Democrats' behavior threatens their father, son, and brothers. They see the Democrats are really against the Constitution and due process. They're really against men. And don't consider Charles Schumer a man. Charles Schumer's not a true man. A true man doesn't talk the way he does. A true man doesn't lie for a living. I heard him this morning, and although I've never liked this man, I know the type. I mean, he's the type that made me run for New York. He's the type of lawyer that had me leave New York 40 years ago. I thought that he was low. He was lying so overtly it got frightening. He said, oh, no, we Democrats didn't delay. We didn't cause any delay. It was my colleagues on the other side who delayed. They're running the committee hearings. They're the ones that didn't delay. You mean Dr. Frankenstein, who withheld this from the committee originally, didn't delay it and throw the monkey wrench into it? Now, I want you to listen again. Well, not yet. I can't listen to her one more time. I don't know how she gets away with this. How? Because they run the country. How? Who will watch the watchers? Remember I gave you that in Latin? It was asked at ancient Rome. Who will watch the watchers? Well, no one's watching Schumer and Feinstein. Who's watching them? Nobody. Here are these false claims. The man has been exonerated for sure. And there's no consequences to Dr. Fraud. None. Dr. Fraud tried to destroy a man, and nothing happened to her. You hear what I'm saying? Now, I want to do something for you that I think will be unique in radio today. I know you're ready to turn the dial. I can hear it. I can feel it. I have a sixth sense after all these years. I can sense when people are bored. Their brains shut down already on the whole monologue. They're not interested, anxious. They don't want to hear it anymore. They don't know what they want to hear. No one knows what they want to hear, what they want to do. They don't know what they want to listen to or watch. Everyone's agitated. Here is someone whose voice you'll recognize if you give it 30 seconds, who never had an FBI investigation as to his background. Listen to clip number one.
Yeah, I think I was a thug for a big part of my growing up. I was, by the time I was an adolescent and had moved back from Indonesia and was struggling with these issues of racial identity and a father not being in the house. And, you know, I reacted by, I didn't take school that seriously. I got into fights. I drank and did and consumed substances that weren't always legal. Some of my behavior was self-destructive. You know, I might drink a six-pack in an hour before going back to class. Things like that.
A six-pack before you drank a six-pack before going back to class. You were a thug. You drank. You did consume substances. That didn't stop you from becoming president. Where was Feinstein then demanding an FBI investigation? Where was Schumer demanding an investigation? Huh? Well, I just wanted you to hear what was what and what was now. How could they say that Kavanaugh showing masculinity and being angry because he was being ripped apart disqualifies him? How can they say a thing like that? You're telling me that Nancy Pelosi is not angry behind the scenes? You can't imagine her throwing shoes around her mansion, breaking lamps? You can't believe that Kristen Gillibrand is a monster behind the scenes? You can't believe Sidney Blumenthal, when he rips the mask off, isn't a maniac? Well, all of them, including Barbara Boxer and the others, say that he's disqualified because he's angry. Well, if anger was a disqualifier, who would be left standing? I think anger is a salvation for people who are being ripped apart. In fact, anger is a useful emotion to defend yourself with. When did anger become something to be ashamed of? Where did that come from? These radical feminists in the pink hats are not angry from the minute they get up in the morning until the minute they go to sleep? Where's the outrage about the anger there? How about Maxine Waters? You think she's angry? How come they don't disqualify her for anger? That woman doesn't need anger management. It's something that anger management would not work on Maxine Waters. That woman was born angry. So who actually benefited the most from the destruction of Kavanaugh, the persecution of Kavanaugh? Dems or Republicans? And what are the penalties for those who falsely accuse others, like Dr. Fraud? I wonder what Sharia law would have to say about false accusations. I just wonder. I mean, let's be clear. We're living in a new age now in the world. And I'm wondering what Sharia law would say about bearing false witness. Is there a Muslim listening to this show? I know amongst the millions there must be one who likes the show because my values are your values and the values of my enemy the same as the enemies of my friends, or something like that. I can't follow that one. I never understood the Arabic thing. The enemy of my friend is my friend, or the enema of my enemy is my friend. My frenemy of my enemy is my enemy. I never understood any of that stuff. The friend of my enemy is my enemy, or my friend is an enemy of an enemy. I don't get that one. But there must be a Muslim out there who can tell me what their Sharia law would say about bearing false witness. What is the punishment in strict Muslim societies for bearing false witness? I'd like to know. And then we're talking about a real horror show out there, which is the destruction of wildlife on the planet. It's a subject near and dear to me. It says wildlife being destroyed at a hyper rate. Are we heading to sixth mass extinction? Conservatives should conserve, not decimate. Because apparently the Guardian article shows the war of terror on wildlife across the globe has escalated to almost a critical mass. And I don't know how this is stopped. We know that China consumes most of the ivory on the planet, right? Do you know how many elephants are killed every year? You don't care. I get it. You don't care about that. The China wildlife means nothing to you. Ho, ho, ho. I'm a Republican. Ho, ho, ho. I fly around and I drop cigar ashes on everyone. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Trump is great. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, ho, 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 ho. That's what passes for conservatism today. You hear why most people run from it? Oh, yeah, they do. I mean, if I were young, I wouldn't be a conservative by what I hear them say. I wouldn't. I'd run from them as fast as I could. Yeah, so you see, I understand how people think and what the visuals are of that kind of oafish behavior and that stupidity, that idiotic stupidity that predates Theodore Roosevelt, still passes for conservative wisdom today. Well, I'm running short of time, but not short of energy or ideas. I'll be right back.
Savage.
So I asked a couple of loaded questions. One was, what does Sharia law tell us about bearing false witness against thy neighbor, which, of course, is banned by the Jewish people in the Old Testament, banned in the Christian Bible, but it's not banned by Charles Schumer and Dianne Feinstein. In fact, the entire Democrat Party seems to be run on the tenet that, by all means necessary. That's the tenet of communism. Paul on WABC is calling. He claims to be a Muslim. Are you really a Muslim, Paul?
Oh, no, but I'm sort of a scholar. I have 5 Qurans. I know what they say. And
okay, so what does the Quran say about bearing false witness against thy neighbor?
It's very simple. If your neighbor is an infidel, you are blessed by Allah. Study.
Oh, so you mean if you're not a non-Muslim, you can lie about them with impunity?
No. If you are a Muslim in a case...
No, I got it. No, if you're a Muslim and you make up false charges against an enemy who's not a Muslim, that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, you are blessed by Allah.
Now, but what does it say? Let's stick to the other point. What if a Muslim defames another Muslim with false testimony? What's the crime? Punishment.
Put it this way, if that other Muslim is a woman who has been raped, for instance, you need 4 male Muslims, on her side, on her favor, in order to have a case. Otherwise, the woman is...
No, I know the woman is a second-class citizen in most traditional Muslim societies. There's no question about it. But what does the Quran say about bearing false witness is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, it's not bad, or it's not good if they do it against another Muslim.
Yeah. So, but what is the punishment? We don't know. What do you have to drive a 1965 Volkswagen for the rest of your life?
But I don't know what.
All right. Well, we'll have to look it up ourselves. I can't verify that. We got great callers. I'm not groping. There's no grope. I think I need to lighten it up a bit. We played Obama from 01 where he says I was a thug. I did illegal drugs. I drank 6 packs before going to school, and somehow that didn't stop him from becoming a president. Well, I've been waiting to do this. I've just taken the salts to avoid fainting. Here is my favorite gal, Dianne Feinstein, today on the FBI report. Listen to her complaining she didn't get a chance to read it. Listen to her. O2.
Candidly, what we reviewed today in a very limited time. I was there. I had to leave.
Of course, you're such a busy
The report is
lady.
in parts, and I had the opportunity to read some, but not all of it. It looks to be a product of an incomplete investigation.
Well, hold on
was
now. Wait.
Limited.
You didn't have time to read it, but you know it's incomplete. The report is incomplete, and you didn't read it, though. So here she is again. First, she destroys a man publicly. Now she acts like clean old Diane. And it's an incomplete report. And although the Democrats agreed that the investigation should be limited, they didn't say it should be limited, actually. They said it should be limited, but not really limited in the way you know it. So now they're saying the report's incomplete and it's not a legitimate report. Listen to the next one in the next clip in 03.
Democrats agreed that the investigation scope should be limited. We did not agree that the White House should tie the FBI's hands. It's simply not credible to say that public testimony in last week's hearing is a substitute for interviews by FBI agents.
Hold it. You lying sack of dirty clothing, you. Kavanaugh has been subjected to 3 FBI investigations along the road to becoming a federal judge. How many investigations have applied to Dianne Feinstein or Charles Schumer, or the alleged ties between another senator and radical Islam? How many FBI investigations? Count them, 0. So yes, America has made up its mind. They definitely have seen the enemy.
Savage.
So we're talking about a lot of different things on the show. Obama in 01 said on the video, I was a thug, I drank, I did illegal drugs. I drank a 6-pack before going to school. I got into fights. And apparently Feinstein rubber stamped him, so did Schumer. But now when it comes to a Christian, heterosexual, conservative, may I say white male, like Kavanaugh, Tyrannosaurus Hex used all of her powers to destroy him. Tyrannosaurus Hex, who withheld the letter from Snow White, didn't release it. Tyrannosaurus Hex is now making believe that she's clean as the driven snow. And then we have the distinguished Terminator from New York, Charles Schumer. I have things I could say about him, but I prize my radio show too much. Charles Schumer, the distinguished Terminator from New York, lied in a way today that I had to turn the TV off. Let's listen to his whiny voice in clip 4 and tell me what you think. Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford. Dr. Kavanaugh. Dr. Ford. So how many times does he say doctor? How many times does he say Dr. Ford in his floor speech? Doctor this. The one good thing that came out of this is that from now on, any of my political opponents will have to call me Dr. Savage. It's that simple. In the past, if you had a Ph.D., as I do, and a real good one, from a great university and a real publication, they wouldn't really call yourself a doctor. You only reserve that for a doctor, right, a physician. So, okay, you don't go around, I'm Dr. this, Doctor. You just have the Ph.D. when you need it. But now you have to call me Dr. Savage, because look at the reverence that they have for this one, who teaches at a off-brand university in a parking lot somewhere, and then runs the CIA internship program at Stanford right down the street at the real university. Palo Alto University, that's a joke. What a university that one is. They created it themselves in order to grant themselves degrees, it looks like to me. But nevertheless, Doctor this, Doctor that, Dr. Fraud, Dr. Two-Door. Remember the two-door she talked about? With Miss Snow White with the up voice? She had to put 2 doors in her house, she said, because she was claustrophobic. What? You're talking about lies. She had to put in the 2 front doors in her house because of claustrophobia, to run away from her husband. This all came out in a therapy session, and no one will release the therapy tapes. No, that's confidential. You're destroying a man, so nothing's confidential. No, it's not confidential. Dr. Fraud couldn't fly. Dr. Fraud couldn't come to meet the committee. Dr. Fraud had fear of flying. Turns out she was flying all over the world on propeller planes, no less, for scuba diving. She lied. She committed perjury, and she persecuted Kavanaugh. There should be a crime for this. But instead, whiny Schumer and Tyrannosaurus Hex have nothing to say about it. That's why I'm not going to get too agitated with it. I can't anymore. It's enough. It's enough. I'm one man. What do you want me to do? Then the Stooges are going to, vote on Saturday now? What? First they hid the report after destroying the man. Don't we have a right to look at the report, see what's in it? At least let us look at it, the dumb people that we are. We're all too stupid to read. None of us are as smart as Tyrannosaurus Hex. We can't read the report. We can't judge for ourselves. We're not capable of making such judgments. It's for the big people. We're the stupid people out there. We can't read the report. We can watch him being destroyed and smeared by Tyrannosaurus Hex. But we actually can't see the exoneration of Kavanaugh. No, that's not allowed. And then on top of it all, the whole pack of gangsters are going to vote on Saturday. What, so we can't see that? What is that, Schmendrick from Kentucky think we're not going to know which way they vote? Mitch the Gobbler? Mitch the Gobbler. Mitch the Gobbler. Wonderful man. Terrific human being. All right, at least he's on the right side of things now. But look, I want to go back to the beginning for 1 minute. Then I swear I'm going to get away from this. How many times have I told you Kavanaugh is a Bushy? Kavanaugh is a moderate liberal Republican. Kavanaugh is not the conservative judge that we want. Kavanaugh, if he gets in, is going to shock you with his votes, especially now he's weakened. What they did here was weaken him for even if he gets appointed, he'll be afraid of his own shadow. Why would Trump, with 25 choices, he had 25 people nominated to him to be put up for the Supreme Court vote. He only chose this guy, a Bushman, no less. A Bushman, not from the Kalahari, but from the Bush administration. A Bushman of Florida. Why did he pick Kavanaugh, a liberal judge, to begin with? Look what he got with this guy. Nothing but heartache. Why didn't he pick the woman judge who was more qualified than Mr. Kavanaugh? Do you think they would have subjected this woman to the same thing they did to Kavanaugh? No, because she's a woman. They couldn't have accused her of rape or sexual harassment. The most they could have said is, well, she's not qualified because she's, pro-life. That wouldn't have stopped it. So in many ways, Trump fell right into their hands, incidentally. I know you don't want to believe it. Many of you are under the false assumption that he knows everything. Nobody knows everything. He's just a man like you. Very bright, great memory, very strong. We support him, but he's just a man. Never forget that. So he made a mistake in picking Kavanaugh amongst the 25. So that becomes the next question for the political thriller called The Savage Nation. Who is it in his inner circle who steered Trump to picking Kavanaugh over all the other judges? So far as I know, no one's asked this question except me for the last 3 weeks. And I think it's a combination of the old guard in the Federalist Society, as well as a certain individual in his inner circle who likes to display herself in front of men on a fairly regular basis. Oh, yeah, there's someone in there who I have really bad feelings about. When I was ushered into the president's, the Oval Office, the time I visited April, a high point in my life. It's a big moment. I'll never be invited back. I understand that. I had my 30 minutes in heaven, in political heaven. It was a great honor. It will be a great honor. It's something I will always remember. My grandchild will know about it. Grandpa went to the Oval Office. There's the picture of him and the president. That's great stuff. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's a big deal. To sit at that desk, the Great Resolution desk from the Great Resolution Warship, you didn't sit there. All you mockers in Santa Rosa, all you failed lawyers and retired doctors, you drug addicts, you were never there when Obama was there. So it's a big deal to me. But I'll never forget that when I was ushered in by the general, a certain creature flew out. It was almost like a bird of prey flying out of the office. She was the last one in there before I met the president. She flew right by me like a dark thing flew by me. Like almost made a squawking sound as she flew by. My question is, did she push it, she and her people, along with the Federalist Society, the neocons, in order to set Trump up for a fall? I don't know who did this. This is not, even if Kavanaugh gets in, this horrible, horrible, horrible experience for America is something we could have avoided had he chosen amongst the 25 choices the woman judge, who was equally, if not more, qualified. So who is it in his inner circle who is probably A, the leaker, and B, the steerer of the ship in the wrong direction? Oh, we'll never know. We can't know those things. We're just a little people. Well, that's a good question I just raised, and I don't have an answer for it, I'll be honest with you. I wish I did, but I have suspicions. That's all I have. They really should hire me to be the inside eyes and ears of that place. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't take the job anyway. I don't want to live in Washington. The thought of wearing a suit every day is enough to stop me from doing anything. The thought of taking off my sandals and wearing shoes prevents me from taking a regular gig anywhere on earth. And the guy said to me, I want you to be the head of the NIH. I would turn him down. The thought of it, can you imagine living in Washington, D.C.? Let's say I buy a big house there, whatever. And let's say I get a government driver and car. It all sounds good. Now you're a member of the Politburo, right? You feel like you're a member of the Kremlin. You got the guards, the car, the power dinners, the power lunches, the power parties. You get to rub elbows with Lindsey Graham on a regular basis. God, how could you go to these cocktail parties and not die of liver failure? But anyway, okay, so you get the job. But you have to put a suit on every day. I was thinking about that. What a strain it is on men who have to go to work. Well, anyone who goes to work in a regular office. Outfits. You need outfits. You cannot wear the same suit every day, can you? So figure 5 days a week, you got to have 5 different suits. Figure $2,000 a suit, not a big deal. Okay, you could afford it. But the idea of the Martinizing and then the chemical smell on the rotation. Then you got the shirt that cuts the neck. The tie. I hate socks. I'm thinking about that. I hate socks. Teddy knows this more than anyone on earth, my dog. He sees me struggling with the sock issue almost every time I go out and put shoes on. I hate socks. You know, I'm even thinking about this, like burial and all in the future. Let's say 100 years from now. I don't want socks on. The moths are going to go, whatever's down there. What do you need socks for anywhere? I mean, I just don't like them. I want to live in a place where I don't need socks, but I don't like the heat. That's the problem. I hate Hawaii. I hate Florida. I can't live there. The humidity. If you have anything of leather, it becomes moldy in these tropical areas. So you got to rule that out. So in other words, this is the conflict. If you go to a place where you don't have to wear socks, it's so hot you could die. You get like mosquito bites in your head. So I don't want the job is what I'm saying. Don't think I'm looking for a job. I don't need the job. I don't want the job. The suits consider mothballs for all I care. Lucky I had 3 suits made before April. It was intuition. It was lucky. I had 3 good suits made, and I had them cut big for the portliness I was developing from the stress I'm under. Oh, did I pack on weight in 2018? It's horrible. The stress I've been under, you shouldn't. No one on earth could take what I took and live through it. I don't know what it is. Knock on wood. What I just went through, I don't want you to know about. Career-wise, let's put it to you this way: it was all over, and now it's not. Now it's not. I'm back. It'll be bigger than ever. That podcast, the show, the 1-hour show. I mean, I still have the headwinds of program directors who are very liberal, who want to pretend that they're doing it for business. I mean, they took me off stations that I had bigger numbers than others, and they made believe it was for reasons other than politics. It was strictly politics. But with the podcast, here's the beauty. Come January, you can listen to me anywhere in the country. Free, 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 free. Free, free, free. That's the first thing everyone says. No money, no cost. The only thing is I want a camera put in. I want you to see how dynamic I actually am in my studio. Like right now, I'm actually standing with a microphone and walking around. I'm so worked up. And if this was a podcast, I wouldn't take a break right now at the 1:45 number. I would go another 20 minutes on the way I feel. I go a little bit more into the type of sock I like. The undershirt's another problem. Undershirt is another problem. You wear a suit and tie. You don't need an undershirt? You do, because if you sweat, you ruin the shirt. So you need an undershirt. That's another problem, the way they grab your body these days, the rotten cotton they're making. Bad cotton. So I seek out old undershirts that I have that are made from good cotton before it became toxic cotton from the dying ecosystems and the vermin in the cotton business. I'm saying cotton now. I'm starting to get frightened. I said the word cotton. I could be accused of racism just for saying cotton. I'm talking about like cotton from India. That's racist too? I mentioned Cotton Mather yesterday. I got a little worried by saying Cotton Mather. The people are so stupid out there, they could say I'm a racist for mentioning Cotton Mather. You don't even know who Cotton Mather is. Who's that racist who said cotton on radio yesterday? What do you mean Cotton Mather? What does that mean, some code word for an old white male? Well, no, it's in a book. You know those things? They come with hardcovers and a cover. It's a thing called a book. The book is called Stop Mass Hysteria, and there's a reference to the Salem witch trials, and there's a mention of a man named Cotton Mather. Cotton Mather. Cotton Mather. Man named Mather, whose first name was Cotton. Name was Cotton Mather. And you'll see all about who Cotton Mather was in Stop Mass Hysteria.
Savage.
Who doesn't like a good night's sleep? Could you live without it? Well, try a Casper mattress and you'll really love it, believe me. And switching is a no-brainer. High quality, affordable price. You'll sleep cool and comfortably every night. And believe me, the pressure we're under today, do you need one of those, right? The beauty is Casper comes to your house in a little box that you won't believe a mattress could fit in. You try it for 100 nights in your own home. You don't like it? They'll take it back for free. What do you got to lose? It might save your marriage. Think about it. From its engineering to its packaging, to letting you try it for 100 nights, it's no wonder Casper has over 35,000 five-star reviews of all their products across Casper, Google, and Amazon. So sleeping on a mattress, it's the best way to try it. Not in one of those stores with neon lights. Put Casper to the test in your own home for 100 nights, risk-free. Go to Casper.com, code SAVAGE. Casper.com, code SAVAGE. You're going to get $50 towards the purchase of select mattresses. That's Casper.com. Code SAVAGE. You'll get $50 towards the purchase of that select mattress, okay? Casper.com. Terms and conditions apply. So here we are. Who benefited more from the destruction of Kavanaugh, Dems, or Republicans? The lights lit right up. All the lights lit up on the Telos board. The minute I got into talking about socks, that was the end of it. They hung up. They went over to the nail gun. I know how to keep an audience. You go to basics. Dem, Republican, Republican, Dem, Dem, Republican, Dem, damn Dems, those great Republicans. Trump is great. Republicans are great. Dems are no good. I know how to do it. I know exactly what to ask you to keep you listening. I know how to prime the pump to keep the water flowing. But what if I don't want to do it? What if I just don't want to do it anymore? What if I just don't want to pander to the lowest common denominator the way the Democrats do? And frankly, the way the Republicans do. What if I want to play Chet Baker instead of Herb Alpert? And what if I want to beat Chet Baker instead of Herb Alpert? Am I allowed to beat Chet Baker on the microphone instead of Herb Alpert? I mean, there's nothing wrong with Tijuana Brass. We could do that. That's talk radio. Tijuana Brass. What if I want to beat Chet Baker in the morning after a bad night? What is wrong with that for radio? Where's it written you have to be Herb Alpert in the radio every day? Again, I've lost the audience. So I remember that show, I'm Dying Up Here. That was a great show that was. It was canceled. Too good. Too good. Showtime. Every good show is canceled. The garbage, like Jimmy Schissel, that remains, showing mushrooms and that looks like the president's private part. That they keep, the vermin. Who runs these networks? Are they as sick as we think? I'm reminded of the Weimar Republic, what happened from the degeneracy. Do I have to give you a little history again? It's actually in mass hysteria. I'm warning you, the degeneracy of our times is 100-fold worse than that of the degeneracy of Germany in the 1920s. And you know what happened in Germany from it? Hitler. We don't want Hitler here, do you understand? That unless these network vermin are stopped, the worst is yet to come.
Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
So I'm going to talk about how the hysteria we're living through right now will end very badly for this country. And I'm going to talk not so much about the Salem witch trials, which is in my book. I'm going to talk about the terribly worrying parallels between the Weimar Republic and modern American society. And tell me if any of this sounds familiar. Now, remember what I'm saying, and so don't misquote me or tell me I'm going in a place you don't want me to go. Germany, 1928. The streets filled with sexual activity, prostitution, homosexuality, transvestism, drugs, open. Did you hear me? That's what was going on in Germany. And so Berlin became famous in the interwar period of hedonistic decadence and debauchery of the type that you now see on late-night television or on any of the channels. And it was made familiar in movies such as Metropolis by Fritz Lang, or images of Marlene Dietrich in The Blue Angel, Josef von Sternberg, stage productions of the Threepenny Opera by Bertolt Brecht. And it was considered artistic and sexual experimentation. And it was considered liberal and open. And so the Weimar Republic, 1918 to 1933 in Germany, did create great cultural creativity then in the Bauhaus movement of modern art, international style and modern architecture. But the background was one of inflation and depression. And then you had the cabaret performances. Sex tourism industry in Germany was very, very big. And from within this frenzied immorality, the people were saying, well, you're having a constitutional sexual equality, and you have sexually liberated and financially independent women in Germany, just as today, same story. And so the German Weimar Republic is a very, very important piece of history that bridged the gap between Germany's loss of the Great War and Adolf Hitler's coming to power in 1933. What does that have to do with today in America? Well, the parallels are actually stunning. We didn't lose World War I, but after Obama, we had a defeated military. We lost every encounter we had. Remember the incident in the Straits of Hormuz with our crying sailors, the baby sailors who cried when the boats were captured by the Iranians? They made them cry on the ship. That's a small example. But there are other examples that are very important that I point out today. And I'll point out to you today and in Mass Hysteria, which will be in the bookstores Tuesday. And I know you're going to want to learn something rather than just have polemics. You want some history. What am I worried about right now? Well, there are parallels to this period in America today. Liberal democracy in Germany. It developed in a time of civil conflict. And it collapsed with the arrival of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in 1933. The more these leftists continue to debase this society, the more that we have sick people on television that we have, the more of that, the more the American people will demand a crackdown. They'll demand some authoritarianism. What else happened in the Weimar Republic that we should worry about? Women became leaders in Germany for the first time. Suddenly, women became leaders. And that's a product not only of the fact that women were smart, but because they only had a population of 60 million Germans. 2 million German men between the ages of 18 and 34 have been killed in World War I. Another 2 million have been so severely decimated physically or mentally, they couldn't do anything in the government. Older men, older German men, too old. And so women rose in Germany. You say, oh, that's great. Well, what occurred as well? You had sexually explicit entertainment of the type you're seeing now on every channel in the country. Every piece of garbage movie that comes out from Katzenberg, Hatzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg is a filth. A pile of celluloid filth, or digital, if you want to call it that. Digital filth and digital violence on a daily basis. Digital violence ingrained in the minds of the people, exported across the world to offend most people on the planet. But this is not all. You can hear I'm in my studio here in San Francisco, and there was a roar outside. That's because the Blue Angels have begun their practice and their warm-ups. What else appeared in Germany during that interwar period? Homosexual and lesbian bars suddenly popped up in German cities. I know I'm not supposed to make a point of it, but they did. But mainly in Berlin. Remember this phrase, how you're going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Berlin? Well, look at all the green-haired girls at UC Berkeley or at Columbia. They all basically farm girls who come to the big city and suddenly they're wild and free. Most Germans were shocked by this, but then the leaders were not. In the past, Germany had glorified motherhood and fatherhood. It had glorified mother's duty to the fatherland. But the Weimar years glorified rampant sexuality, free expression, hedonism, the ascent of women. And so the liberal Weimar government was so akin to what we're having in America today. The people felt good about it. Prostitution was decriminalized. Drugs were rampant. Laws against venereal disease were dropped. Just as in America, we're dropping laws against using heroin now. First they called it injection drug use. Now in San Francisco, they're actually giving junkies drugs to use. Can you believe this? What else happened in the Weimar Republic that is akin to what's happening in America today? Weakened police authority. Rampant lawlessness arose because the liberal agenda led to weakened policing. The criminals suddenly proliferated. What else happened? Couldn't buy firearms. People were not allowed to have firearms. What else happened? Well, I can give you some more examples. And then there was a backlash. That's what I'm talking about. The backlash to this liberalism arose. Right now, for example, it's a direct parallel to the Weimar Republic in Germany. And you have groups like Antifa, the vermin cowards who put on black masks, beat people up, kicking girls in the street, attacking police, breaking windows. Most of them are punks who go back to college teaching jobs or God knows where they are with impunity. Well, we had the same thing. The world had seen the same thing in Germany in the interwar period with the communists. Exactly the same thing. You don't know that the brown shirts of Hitler were a reaction to the lawlessness of the communists. I don't think you understood this. Most people have it backwards. Now, don't twist what I'm saying and say I'm glorifying the brown shirts. I am simply giving you a piece of history and lessons from history. Remember what I said to you many times. Those who do not know history are condemned to repeat it. I am telling you it's chilling. What do you think I killed myself writing mass hysteria for? Because I'm trying to send out a warning to the world of where this will lead. And I see where this will lead. So I'll go on. So just like Antifa today and the Occupy movements of today, which are lawless and violent, the anarchists of today, egged on by Nancy Pelosi, who says we're all disruptors. Same thing there. So the communists were given the green light to attack anyone they wanted, as they're attacking Republicans now, senators. No one stops them. It's as though we're powerless to protect ourselves from these vermin. So the Germans said enough is enough. So what happened was a lot of ex-military from World War I, along with tremendous money from the aristocracy that was still in Germany, they had secret cells emerge, and they put together some of the toughest men in Germany, and they formed units called brown shirts, and they started beating up communists in the streets. That's what happened. I didn't say it should happen here. Don't condemn what I am saying. You don't want to know history? You can be a moron if you want. You can be the biggest moron on earth, but I am going to tell you this story because this story is waiting to be told. And not all of you can afford or will buy Stop Mass Hysteria. Most of you won't even understand or see it because it's being blocked by Fox News. I wouldn't expect to see it on CNN. They don't read books unless they support the liberal agenda. But you're going to read that book. My core audience will read this book. And so what else happened next? What worries me next? The brown shirts went out in the streets with clubs and started to beat the heck out of the communists who were causing havoc in Germany. And the people cheered them. You didn't know that. The German people, who were very, very middle of the road, couldn't take the lawlessness and the disorder, and they cheered the brown shirts at first. This is all true. It's all an absolute fact of reality, what I'm telling you. The average person cheered on the brown shirts, and so more men joined them, and more money poured into the people supporting the brown shirts. But what is the lesson for those of you who are listening to this show? Well, over a period of time, liberal societies build up an opposition from the right wing. The larger a liberal society grows, so grows with it the right wing. Did you hear what I said? And so that's how Trump got elected, by the way, not because he's Hitler. Don't get me wrong. Of course, the left would like you to think he's Hitler. He's the furthest thing from Hitler you could ever imagine. And so we had a little bit of a backlash. We have a charismatic leader. He had some solutions. But his solutions, for example, to block the immigration of criminals into this country has been blocked by liberal judges. That too will pass. Those liberal judges were not elected by anybody. Their time will come. You will see they will be thrown off the bench. They may think that they're immune from this, but they are not immune from this. And so what is the point of my show today? My point is there has been a right-wing backlash in this country. And we have a charismatic leader. But his solutions are not yet that extreme. The left would say any of his solutions are extreme. Just as the left said that Kavanaugh was a drunk, which he wasn't. Kavanaugh was a rapist, which he wasn't. He drank too much beer. What college student didn't? You know any who didn't? What did they do in college? What did Jerry Nadler do in college? What did Charles Schumer do in college? What did he do? He drank Manischewitz? He drank too much Manischewitz? What do we know what they did in college? I don't know one boy who went to college and didn't go crazy and have a good time. They made that suddenly an aberration. What I'm saying to you is history is a very good indicator of what's coming. Things go around in cycles. So when I say stop mass hysteria, if you think that the left and its super liberalism is a good thing for this country and the West, you're 100% wrong. You're 1,000% wrong. It will bring about the exact opposite of what the liberals hope it will bring about. Trust me on that. I am the author of Stop Mass Hysteria, the most important book of our time. Period. I'll be back.
Savage.
See, we're setting the tone, but I know most of you turned it off already. It's so not, yah, sis, boom, bah, Republican. But I'll do it anyway. So I'm playing Marlene Dietrich because she's a symbol of the degeneracy. Great singer, though, of the moral degeneracy of the decadence, let's put it that way, of Weimar Germany. And where does it lead? Well, it could lead if there's a downturn in the economy. Let's say a blowout hits. See, this is what triggers it all. If we have an economic blowout in the West, a right-wing leader will arise that will make Trump look like what he is, which is a liberal centrist. And things will happen that you can't believe are happening, and it will happen so fast you'll say it's not happening. And liberalism will be the reason for it. You say it can't happen here? Well, it will happen here. And the economic downturn that is being predicted by some economists is inevitable. It's going to happen. And I'm afraid if it happens, it'll be worse than ever. Because we're at a height now of the stock market. The inflation's out of control, incidentally, right underneath the surface. They're printing money right now in a way I've never seen done in this country, in the country's history. They're just printing money. And under the Democrats, when we criticized deficit spending, we were right, because I'm a fiscal conservative. But all fiscal conservatives have dummied up. They've shut their mouths. You hear anyone in the radio talking about the runaway and the deficit? No, not one person. They all want to go in there and get the treatment. They all want to get a tour of the Oval. But someone's got to say, stop printing the money. This is crazy. Because someone's going to have to pay for that. This doesn't go on forever. You want to wind up taking a wheelbarrow of cash or of credit cards to buy a loaf of bread, as happened in Weimar Germany at the just before all of this? They had to take a whole wheelbarrow full of paper currency to buy a loaf of bread. That's how valueless the money had become. Now, several years ago, I wrote a book called Trickle Down Tyranny. You'll still find it on Amazon. But I will bet that the company has not removed the personal attack reviews on that book and all my other books the way they did by cutting 900 negative reviews of Hillary Clinton's book, What Happened. Yes, that's right. Now, if you find Stop Mass Hysteria next week up there, which you will find all the negative reviews left up there. Some of them posted by the enemies of America, some of them posted by enemies of Michael Savage. But none of them will be taken down the way 900 negative reviews of Hillary Clinton's book were removed. And this practice demonstrates exactly how that concept works. So if you think that things are great now, good for you, and I hope they stay forever, but nothing stays forever. If history teaches us anything, there are cycles to economy, there are cycles to political views, and I pray that as I write on page 303, that is where, when, and how the carcass of the once great United States will become nothing more than carrion for the masses. As China and India rise, we will sink even deeper, and we may well do it without hysteria, because Americans, by then, traditional Americans, hardworking, roll-up-your-sleeves Americans, will be too tired and feel too consistently betrayed. Sound familiar? Will be too tired and feel too consistently betrayed, too dispirited to fight back. Page 303. Stop mass hysteria. So if you're a serious person and you are offended by the degeneracy of our times, and you are offended by how modern liberalism is bringing this country to its knees, you've got a place to go. Trust me on that one.
Savage.
Welcome back to the history of the Savage Nation. So all of this cultural degeneracy that we're seeing, the Jimmy Kimmels with the mushrooms, this is a symptom of the degeneracy of our times. He is perhaps the apex of the sickness of our times. I was going to kill that word. I can't use that word. A low-down, disgusting prostitute is now held up as a role model. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This is a piece of history you're living through. The problem for us, those of us who were disgusted by these liberal degenerates, is that we have a booming economy because of Trump. And so people, as long as they have food on the table, they'll look aside at the pornography on television, and people will say, what can you do? The cities are filled with crime and violence and corruption. We see it every day in the Senate and the House. We know it's corrupt. And although people, the average person, is sick of it, and the crime is out of control in many cities. Take a look at San Francisco, where just the other day a so-called homeless bum beat up a young father with his child in a park. Nothing was done to him. Nothing. Human feces in the streets, needles in the streets, nothing. The people look the other way because the economy is good. However, listen to me carefully. When and if we have a blowout in the economy, and I believe there's a when and an if coming, the parallels I have given you between the Weimar Republic of the interwar years in Germany and modern America will bring about a fascism like you've never seen. Do I want it? Absolutely not. I've been trying to warn you against it. But instead of the brakes being put on the moral degeneracy, the brakes were removed from that train. And that train's just speeding along. The laugh tracks are running around the clock. And the inevitable will happen. I've tried to warn you on the radio. Finally, I put it all together in my book, Stop Mass Hysteria. Will it become a big enough bestseller? Like I said to you the other day, certain books have changed the course of society. And I mentioned one the other day. Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, in the 60s, changed the whole world. Made us aware of the ecosystems that we were all living in. That one book, that title alone did it. There was many along the way, but I forget the one that was done by Sinclair Lewis about meatpacking and the meatpacking industry. He wrote a book about the horrors of the slaughterhouse. That changed things in America and brought about the Pure Food and Drug laws of 1914, I believe. Books change society. The Jungle. Thank you. A single book can change the course of human history. I'm hoping Stop Mass Hysteria comes along just at the right time, but I am facing such a headwind of a slew of books by people who have television shows that have around-the-clock publicity. Liberals promote their own. Conservatives do not because of outright competition. They don't want to promote me. But you are the audience that can change America's destiny, I'm telling you. And you can do so by talking about history. But first you have to learn a little bit about it. And that little snippet I gave you today is only part of it. The rest can be seen in Stop a Mass Hysteria. But I want to go to someone who's holding from New York City on WABC about finance, because I want to conclude with this. If the economy blows down and there is real pain in this country, That is when you're going to see the real right-wing backlash. You will see it then. You say it can't happen now? Well, it is happening right now. There's an undercurrent right now, a real undercurrent of people who've had enough of this filth. Enough of this filth, they can't take it anymore. And it came to a head with the Kavanaugh hearings when we saw the destruction of a very decent man. You know anyone who went to college and didn't drink? But yet we saw what they did to this man. They stopped at nothing to destroy him and his family. And that, I think, could be the apex of the high water mark of liberalism. I think it could be. But the real flashpoint will happen when there's a major blowout in the stock market and the economy collapses. That could happen. Suddenly, then, the American people will back 100% strange and charismatic individuals who will offer to save America. And the worst is yet to come. But can the economy collapse? Mark on WABC, you claim you're in the finance industry. Go ahead, please.
Well, my background is I'm a CFP, I'm a CPA, I have a master's in tax. I'm a registered investment advisor. So really all I do is talk about money all day long. And I've been talking to my clients about this for at least 4 years. And the thing that I would talk to them about was what's going on with the federal government. One of the largest line items on the federal government is the interest. And as the interest rates have been very, very, very low, it's still had $600-800 billion of deficits, which I had to explain to my clients. The government was not bringing in enough money in taxes to pay the bill, which included the interest, which meant they had to borrow money to pay the interest.
Wait, are you talking about our government now under Donald Trump?
This is federal only, yes. This is federal only.
Wait, I want to get this clear. You're saying our government right now is printing money to such an extent that they have to borrow money to pay the interest?
Yep. Every time there's a news article where there's a deficit, the deficit means they are not bringing in enough revenue to pay the bills. And
So in other words, wait, let me just summarize for the people who are listening. We complained bitterly under Obama and the liberals when they taxed and spent. We said, the Democrats stand for tax and spend. Well, now we have an administration that stands for spend and spend. So they, on one hand, cut taxes and they spend more than Obama did. And you're saying that the dislocation is so great that what's going to happen is what I want to know.
Well, I will tell you. So when I would talk to my clients and they would say, so what does that mean? I would say, if you want to see what it's going to look like, look at Greece. Does anybody know what Greece looks like as an economic powerhouse?
No, tell us what isn't it more? Wait, how about on our own hemisphere? How about Venezuela? Could we go as bad as that?
Yeah, they're all the same. I mean, huge economic inequities when you're just not paying your bills and you're borrowing and you're borrowing and you're borrowing. Eventually, it has real economic consequences.
So why don't the wise men around Donald Trump tell him about this, like Mr. Cohen? Why don't they tell him that?
Well, I understand the real world of politics, and I understand that the politician's first job is just to get reelected. The thing that I do not understand is, don't these politicians have children? Don't they understand the world that they are creating for their children? That's what I.
Well, what is the world that's being created right now? What will it look like? Give us if there's a severe economic downturn. What does it look like?
Well, I don't want to go as volatile as riots, but you eventually reach a point where people have had enough. And
there have been bread riots in history. In our own country, we had riots over food. When we had the Great Depression, there were riots. People were starving in this country.
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen probably in the short term is people do not understand how Social Security works. There's no real savings account in Social Security. Your money just goes into the general account, and then when the benefits are paid, it comes out of the general account.
Right.
Now, when Social Security was first started, you had 11 people paying the benefits for the one beneficiary. Now you have about 2.5 people working to pay the benefits of the beneficiaries. And one of the
what about all the people faking disability? on the disability racket in America? What about all the drug addicts? What about all the OxyContin addicts who don't work? Who's paying for all of this? We are, the taxpayers.
Absolutely. If you take a look at the statistics of who's actually paying taxes, there was a very interesting statistic about the tax money, where the left is talking that they want the rich people to pay more taxes. But if you look at the statistics, the rich, the top 5%, are paying more as a percentage of the federal tax revenue. They're paying more now than they did 20 years ago.
That's right. And the top 1%, and the top 1%, which is everybody in the media, now make no mistake about it, all these wild leftists, they're in the top 0.1%, are paying most of the taxes in the country. That's if they're paying legitimately. And I can't speak for anyone else. I will tell you right now, I'm paying more taxes under Trump's tax plan than I did before it. Do you know that, living in California?
Well, let me tell you.
My taxes went up, in other words. Under Donald Trump's so-called tax plan, as a Californian, it doesn't matter that I'm a conservative or a libertarian, whatever you want to define me as. Go try to define me. I wish you good luck. I'm paying more under Donald Trump's tax plan than I did under Obama's. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, what's really
because and so is everyone in New York, even if they're right-wing conservative, because you cannot deduct state taxes from federal anymore.
Well, it's not
but since 50% of the population doesn't even work, and another large percentage are illegal aliens who pay no taxes, people don't even care. The underground economy is so big right now, people don't even know anything about these things. But the so-called tax plan that was supposed to be a great salvation for me as a Californian is such that I'm paying more taxes than I did before. Did you know that? Does anyone really? You're not allowed to say anything about it. Oh, hush, hush. Don't say that. Anyone in New York know what I'm talking about? Any of those of you listening to the show who are fiscal conservatives who are paying more than you did under Obama? Because I know you are. You can no longer deduct your New York State taxes, your state taxes from your federal taxes. Did you know that? Whereas we could in the past. All right, I see the same thing. The handwriting is on the wall. It's not a very, very pretty picture. And I try to tell you this with history, not an allegory. I talked about the Weimar Republic, where the moral corruption offended most Germans, but they couldn't do anything about it. And then along came after the people were hungry and the violence of the left got too great for them, as we now have with Antifa and the Occupy people with the masks, who are beating up Republicans, chasing senators, chasing right-wingers, they say, calling anyone who they disagree with a fascist. There will be the equivalent of what happened in Germany in this country as sure as I'm sitting here. You may not think it's going to happen. I believe the underground is already bubbling up to the surface, and it will happen. And when the political assassinations start from the left, which they boasted about 2 weeks ago, do you remember what they said, Antifa? They published a statement saying, we want you to go out during the day and make believe you're for the country and you're for each other and for the common good. But at night, put on your masks and kill those political opponents. Kill them, they said. Go out and kill, they said. That's the left wing in this country. That's the anarchists. That's the far left. They say go out and kill. Well, do you think this is going to just go on its own? Do you think people are going to sit there like 10 pins waiting to be shot and executed? I don't think so. These are very volatile times. They're being whipped up by the Democrat politicians. And to me, the apex of all of it was the Kavanaugh hearings. They came along just at a time where the American people finally saw how vicious and malicious these people are. And I started my show by asking a loaded question. Who benefited more from the destruction of Kavanaugh, Dems or Republicans? I will tell you, from my point of view, and I believe that I have as good a stethoscope to America's heart as anyone in this country after a quarter of a century of listening to the heartbeat of America, I will tell you that Tyrannosaurus Rex and the other distinguished Terminators on the Democrat Party did themselves no favor.
Savage.
Every one of us has had an old car, used car, run out of the warranty. You take it in for an oil change, you get hit with thousands of dollars in a repair bill. Well, what are you going to do about it? Well, what you should have done and what you should do is get extended vehicle protection from CarShield. Look, if your car breaks down after the manufacturer's warranty expires, it could cost you thousands to get it fixed. An engine, what does an engine cost today? What, $10,000, $5,000? A sensor, $1,000? CarShield makes the process of fixing your car for a covered repair super easy. You can have your favorite mechanic do it or the dealership. They also give you 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed absolutely free. If your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, it does not mean you have to pay high repair bills. CarShield administrators have paid out close to $2 billion in claims, and they're ready to help you. So listen, save yourself thousands in future car repairs. Get covered by the ultimate in extended vehicle protection. Call 800-CAR-6100, 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 code SAVAGE. Or visit carshield.com, code SAVAGE, and you'll save 10%. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE, or call 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. And now let's get back to the news. And the news is very, very bad for the Democrats. I believe that liberalism has shown its ugly, disqualifying face during the Kavanaugh hearings, and I personally believe that the destruction of Kavanaugh, the politics of personal destruction, the obstruction tactics that Schumer and company exhibited, will awaken and has awakened the Republicans who are dormant. Just as when Trump came along, many of you had not voted for years. You gave up on the system. You just gave up. You went and minded your own business and tried to do the best you could. And then along came a man who you'd never seen before. He was said to be outside the system. He was not a politician. He was not even a lawyer, thank God. He was a businessman. And so for a year straight, I, on this radio show, backed the president. And I don't want to talk about others. It doesn't really matter to me. He's president. The point is that he was a reaction to all the failed policies of liberalism. And while he's not perfect, he's certainly done a great job so far. But all of this Kavanaugh business has awakened the sleeping voter again. And they will be out in droves in the midterms, I believe. And I believe that the opposition to liberalism, the opposition to the cultural degeneracy, is growing and growing and growing. And I believe that we will soon see things happen that we never could believe could happen in this country. And I warn you that evil can arise at any time in a nation. It can happen again. And my whole object of this radio show is to prevent this evil from happening. Unfortunately, the liberals have never learned from history. Read Stop Mass Hysteria if you want to know more.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.